Hi, and welcome to a presentation for the Georgia Green Landscape Stewards Program. Today's topic is water conservation. My name is Martin Wonderly. I'm the area water agent for the UGA Extension Northeast District. This presentation is part of the University of Georgia Extension Service Georgia Green Landscapes Program, funded by the Center for Urban Agriculture. These guidance series will help Georgia residents create certified, sustainable Georgia landscapes, protecting our natural resources for future generations. Today's presentation is about water conservation in the landscape. Water is a valuable natural resource that should be used sustainably. Its availability is not guaranteed, and at times we must change our practices to ensure we have water to use in the short and long term. When we use water in our garden landscapes, we have a choice to use it wisely so that it will be available as often as needed now and in the future. As you can see by this map of the state of Georgia, we receive quite a bit of rainfall on a yearly basis. Much of the state is between 40 to 50 inches of rainfall per year. However, this depends on the type of year we have. Droughts, El Niños, hurricanes, and other weather patterns can affect our rainfall. Also, depending on what time of the year the rain comes, we may not have the rain when we need it the most. Now, these maps show percent change in annual precipitation across the United States. And you can see at the top, Georgia has some areas that are slightly less than normal rainfall and slightly more than normal rainfall. This is comparing the years 1986 to 2015 versus 1901 to 1960. And if you look at the seasonal breakdown of this precipitation change, our spring in Georgia, we're receiving upwards of 10 to 15% less rainfall than we did in the 1901 to 1960 period. And we're getting 10 to 15% more rainfall than we normally do in the fall season. This is September, October, November, now than we did in 1901 to 1960. And you can see summer rainfall patterns is a little bit drier than usual across the state. Some areas more than other, and a few areas that are a little bit wetter up in the mountains. In the winter, it looks like South Georgia is getting more precipitation than they normally did in the past, in early part of the 1900s. And North Georgia is getting less rain than they did in the early 1900s. Now, these are all changing weather patterns that we're going to have to think about when we start using water in our landscape. A resource that you can find at weather.uga.edu will show the total evapotranspiration in inches across the state of Georgia. Now, this is amount of water basically that is evaporating from the surface of the ground and also being transpired by vegetation. So if your area is losing a lot of water through evapotranspiration, such as the brighter red colors here, upwards of 1/4 of an inch, you'll have to adjust your irrigation to make up for that loss. Now, irrigation is necessary to keep our lawns and ornamental plants and vegetables watered appropriately during the growing season. There are many principles and guidelines you can follow that will help conserve water as a resource while maintaining a healthy and beautiful landscape. One thing to consider is your planting design. You should put the right plants in the right place by following the suggestions on your plant tag. Now, these tags usually tell you what type of soil drainage, what the water needs are, and what the sunlight requirement is for your plant. If you put the wrong plant in the wrong place, You may end up having to give it more water just to keep it alive. Place plants with low water needs at higher elevations. Now, this is where water is not going to stick around very long, so you might as well put plants up there that can withstand a little bit drier condition. Water runs downhill and down into the ground, so you want to put plants that have higher water needs in flat areas or low areas that receive a lot of runoff. And by doing this, you're going to help reduce your water use, and you're also going to help waste by not creating a lot of runoff when you try to water your plants. Group your plants with similar watering requirements so that you're not trying to water one really thirsty plant in your flower bed while the rest of them are just getting excess, unnecessary amounts of water. Try to group your plants by water needs. Placement and species selection should also consider the topography and the soil type. You can see a slope here with different shrubs at the top of the slope compared to flowering plants down at the bottom. Sand, clay, silt, and loam all absorb and hold water differently. Clay soils will hold water a lot longer than sandy soils will, and loam is in between. Plant some trees and shrubs in your landscape. They require less irrigation and are more drought and flood resistant. They also reduce soil moisture evaporation by shading the ground. And you can still get some flowers and shrubs and plants that can withstand shade if you'd like to cover the turf area under your trees. Incorporate drought-tolerant, biome-appropriate, or native plants. You can find a list of these plants on the Extension Publications website by searching native plants. Some gardens may require some wetland-tolerant plants if you have very wet conditions in one part of your property. Just remember, not all native plants are drought-tolerant, such as native wetland plants. Practice xeriscaping, from the Greek word xeros, which means dry. Now, we don't want you to go out and plant a cactus desert in your backyard, but if you consider some water conserving techniques, such as using mulch and not watering as much and using efficient irrigation and drought resilient plants, you can create xeriscaping as shown by the picture on the right hand side of the slide. Some management practices to consider that will help conserve water in your landscape. Aerate your lawns at least once a year. This improves percolation of the irrigation water down into the soil. It decreases runoff from storms across your property and out into the street, and encourages turf grass roots to grow deeply and become more drought tolerant. Use mulch to conserve soil moisture and keep competing weeds at bay. Add organic matter to sandy or clay soils to increase the infiltration and effectiveness of water. Good mulch, compost, and loam topsoil are better at storing water. Avoid soil compaction. It prevents rainwater infiltration and harms the roots of your plants. You can see in this picture they've fenced off the root zone for this tree during a construction project to keep heavy machinery from compacting the soil and preventing water from infiltrating into your plants and trees' roots. Raise your lawnmower height in the summer months. Longer grass protects soil moisture and it reduces the need for more irrigation. Use a mulching mower so that grass clippings fall between the plants and end up acting as a mulch to protect soil moisture. Install rain sensors that override irrigation systems. Don't install it upside down under your eaves, because that would defeat the purpose of the rain sensor, which Rain sensors cut off your irrigation system when they detect water and rainfall, and you can adjust them to either shut off your system for a little bit or slightly more rainfall amounts. You should maintain your sprinkler irrigation system pressure appropriately to avoid water misting that evaporates and drifts off course. That ends up just wasting water. You can retrofit your pop-up sprinkler heads in small coverage areas with high efficiency rotator sprinkler heads. These deliver water in a rotating stream at a steady and slow rate, which allows your landscape to get irrigated uniformly at rates that your soil can absorb, helping to reduce runoff. Use a rain gauge to monitor the amount of water plants receive naturally and alter your supplemental irrigation accordingly. The gadget on the left is just an electronic rain gauge system that can be hooked up to your irrigation controller and identify when you need to irrigate or when you can cut back on irrigation. Or you can just use the old school rain gauge, empty it after every rainfall, and you can keep an eye on how much watering you might need to do for certain plants. You can also use an integrated soil moisture sensor for irrigation controllers. And that's exactly how it sounds. It's a probe that is installed in anywhere on your property, possibly an average part of your property that's not the most wet or the most dry, but somewhere in between. So you can basically conserve water by telling your irrigation system when the ground has plenty of moisture in it, doesn't need any watering. You can estimate soil moisture content by feel and appearance before watering. Now, the U.S. Department of Agriculture has a manual that provides water content values. That might be a little too much detail for you, but you get the idea about looking at the soil and touching it and trying to roll it into your hands to see how moist it is before you decide how much watering you need to do on your landscape. You can conduct a routine soil test to determine your soil characteristics. You can also test for the composition of silt, sand, and clay to help you understand your water storage and infiltration capabilities. Now, these are University of Georgia Agriculture and Environmental Service Lab tests. S1 for your basic soil test and S5 for your texture test. Follow the recommended water requirements for each type of plant. Trees, shrubs, ground covers, fruits, vegetables, flower beds, and lawns all require different types of watering regimens. Don't overwater your plants. This can hinder your growth, reduce oxygen available to the roots, and leach your fertilizer nutrients right past the roots further into the soil and groundwater. This increases disease potential and wastes water supplies and creates excess runoff pollution across your landscape. If water runs off your yard during your irrigation system, just split your watering times into 2 or more sessions. Allow it time to infiltrate into the ground. Water the roots and not the foliage. Wet foliage and splashing water spreads fungal spores and bacterial disease. Water is needed at the roots, not the leaves. Use hand watering or drip irrigation on trees, shrubs, and beds. Now, occasionally you may have to wash the foliage of your plants during dusty, dry periods. Water deeply and infrequently. Deep watering penetrates the soil to 6 inches and encourages deep root development. Deep root systems are more drought tolerant. Evaporation is reduced with deep watering as moisture persists longer. Deep, infrequent watering reduces watering days and conserves water. Seedling establishment may require some more frequent watering. You can see in the picture on the bottom of the slide, with deep, infrequent watering, your plant's root structure is going to be stronger and deeper, and would be able to withstand drier conditions. You may need to figure out the rate that you're applying your irrigation water. If you have an irrigation system, you can calibrate those, find out how much water they put out per hour. You can find out your soil infiltration rate by doing a perk test or just pouring water in a hole and get a quick idea of how quickly water penetrate into the soil. And then you can adjust your irrigation to take into account that infiltration rate and try to get more infrequent and deeper watering sessions based on what you find out. Water your lawns and outdoor plants between 4 and 10 a.m. to reduce evaporation loss. Georgia Water Stewardship Act governs water supplies permitted by Georgia Environmental Protection Division. This does not apply to private wells or pond water. It does not apply to drip irrigation, soaker hose, handheld watering, commercial agriculture, personal food gardens, or harvested stormwater. It does apply to established turf and landscape plants. Follow the water use and drought regulations when notified in your area. The Water Stewardship Act of 2010 established an organized system for managing our water resources, outdoor watering guidelines, and drought management rules. And you can see under different drought levels, the actions and regulations change. Between different days of the week you're allowed to water, or potential outright emergency bans on outdoor watering. And here's a notification example from the Georgia Environmental Protection Division showing you what you might see during certain drought levels across the state. If your county is highlighted in the red color on the map, you're in a level 2 drought, which requires the odd and even address watering schedule. You'd be allowed to only irrigate your lawns and landscape plants between 4 p.m. to 10 a.m. 2 days a week. Now, this watering regimen is something that you can consider doing regardless of the drought level if you want to help conserve water. It goes along with that deep and infrequent watering suggestion. Direct your sprinklers to the right location. No point in watering the pavement and you're wasting water and it's just rushing down the street, creating stormwater pollution. Monitor for leaks or broken nozzles, or you end up with this picture on the right-hand side, which shows a lot of water just going all over the street at a pretty large volume and rate there. Set your automatic sprinklers correctly and adjust as seasons or drought conditions change. Turn off your system if rainfall is sufficient to water the landscape, or use a soil moisture sensor. This picture is an example of what not to do. It's raining while the irrigation system is running. Try out some drip irrigation. It's good for just about any plants that are not turf or lawn. So it's great for vegetable gardens and flower beds. This reduces water loss due to evaporation or runoff. The water gets straight to the roots instead of broadcast everywhere. Set up their drip for the proper irrigation rate for your soil type, for your slope, and for your plant requirements. Now this picture are some drip lines being set up for a vegetable garden. Drip irrigation allows watering individual plants at different rates. You can supply 1 to 4 gallons of water per hour directly to the soil. It soaks the soil without washing away the mulch. These are different drip irrigation emitters that are attached to your drip line, and different manufacturers have different color coding, but you can see that their water irrigation rate are different between these two emitters. Now, our certification checklist items are on this slide. Practice some of these water conservation techniques and fill out your Georgia Green Landscape Stewards application to find out whether you meet Georgia Green Sustainable Landscape requirements. If you have questions about our program or any of the other presentations and educational materials that you find on our website below, please email us at georgiagreen.uga.edu.